Could you just talk a little bit about the equipment involved and also the clay? When we spoke earlier, you were telling me about different regions having different types of clay, right? Could you just talk a little bit about the equipment and the clay?
Yeah. So in terms of equipment, I think the most important thing that we all need is the potter's wheel. And most of the urban potters now have an electric wheel. Some still use kick wheel or a combination, of course. Uh, Electric wheel, it's pretty much the same, but every time you're in a new environment, it does take a little bit of time for you to get used to that space. So, like we were talking about the time I was in Bangalore. So they had a completely different electric wheel from what I have. But in terms of that, I think it takes you about a few minutes to get used to that. The bigger challenge is when there's a change of clay. So if it's a different composition, the plasticity of the clay can differ, which means how much I play with it on the wheel is different. Like in Andretta, I used to use terracotta, and terracotta is much easier to throw on the wheel. So I would be able to make taller things, bigger things much easily than when I came back and I started working in stoneware. It took me a little sort of unlearning and relearning of sorts to get back to this clay and get used to this clay. Similarly, if I use porcelain, it's even harder to control on the wheel. It does play a little bit, it factors a little bit when you're working with different clays, but I think in one or two tries, you get a hang of it because the process eventually is the same. And of course, if now I go and sit on a traditional potter's wheel, that's going to be very difficult for me, or the one that they move with their hands. Something like that is very, very difficult. But if it's an electric wheel, you'll get used to it in a couple of minutes.